That starts at 12 o'clock Eastern Time today. And although those hearings have been dominating the headlines, there are other developments, news this Sunday. First of all, U.S. Secretary of State James Baker is en route to Egypt this morning. It's going to be his 8th trip to the Middle East to try and put together an international peace conference. When he gets to Israel, he will find a new land dispute just outside the old city of Jerusalem. And Kerry Glasser has more.
The Jewish settlers celebrate bringing their holy book, the Torah, to the house by say of vows. Their presence in this Arab village is a symbol to hold on to the land and not join an international peace conference or trade land for peace.
This so-called peace conference is the straight road to suicide.
A handful of Israelis came to Silwan to say the settlers are a provocation, and the international peace conference is something Israel cannot afford to miss. The Abu Mayala family worries more about their house. They've lived in Silwan 20 years, but now face eviction, another property the settlers say they bought fair and square.
We belong to this land. This is our life, our house.
When James Baker gets here later this week, the settlers and the tension will probably still be here. Just another example of how Arabs and Jews claim the same land and how difficult it will be to make peace. Kerry Glasser, NBC News, Silwan, Israel.
And back in this country, a reminder that as the Thomas hearings begin today, we'll have a special report beginning at 12 o'clock Eastern Time here on NBC. And that is the news at this moment.
And the glories of full-blown autumn are leaving the northern regions and going south. El Roker is tracking it. Hi, Al.
Thanks a lot, Mary Alice. Let's take...
The other is the issue of sexual harassment, which really ignited this firestorm, this debate. Our guest today, Barbara Ehrenreich, knows a lot about that. She's a writer on feminist issues and women in politics for Time magazine and other publications. Good morning. When you look at this, these 2 days of hearings, do you think the question of sexual harassment in a way is being lost in all the uproar?
Oh, yes. I think we've had, well, first we had we had Anita Hill being questioned as to Anita Hill's credibility. Then we had Judge Thomas back yesterday being questioned as to Anita Hill's credibility. So that when we're done, maybe we'll know whether Anita Hill would be a good Supreme Court justice. I mean, I think that the issue is being dodged.
But what happens then to the issue as an issue?
Well, I mean, that's the question. You see, right now, people can see on the screen Clarence Thomas suffering and great pain. And they cannot, but we cannot see the suffering that Anita Hill went through. See, so it's gotten shifted sort of toward the victimization of this man. It's too bad we don't have, of course, tapes of the alleged harassment, and I think that would be very shocking and convincing.
What part of the testimony stunned you the most? Was it that the panel didn't get why she kept following him through her career?
That doesn't surprise me. I think that's one of the things that both men and sometimes women have trouble in dealing with about sexual harassment. That it's not something that you just say, you blow a whistle, call the cops, that's it at the moment. That very often, I mean, I can speak from my experience. I'm sure you've had experiences, Mary Alice, where you feel ashamed. You ask yourself, what did I do? Did I lead him on? Did I send the wrong signals? And then you're humiliated by the harassment itself. So the impulse is to bury it, is to try to paper it over and have as normal a possible relationship as you can.
But again, what happens now? Because the public attention is there. But these hearings will be over in a couple of days. Thomas will not be a member of the Supreme Court. Anita Hill will go back to Oklahoma to teach law. But what happens in terms of the debate of things really changing?
Well, for one thing, Derek, we have had about 2 days of a mass consciousness-raising session on sexual harassment in this country. Everybody has discussed it.
But I'm not sure that it's clearer in the public mind.
Well, I think unless one thing has gotten through is that it does not need to involve touching, that it can involve verbal exchanges entirely. In fact, if you think of what Thomas was alleged to have done, that comes rather close, in my mind, to a sexual act when you get a woman to participate in your fantasy. She has to listen to it. She's an underling. She's sitting there. She becomes a participant in that. And I think that's very degrading.
I think, just speaking as one man, but talking to other men, I think people have been sensitized. The male species is quite aware of this, and to a degree that we weren't just a short while ago. But what do you think is going to be the attitude among women in terms of getting involved in politics? Now, there are only 2 women in the Senate, 29 or so in the House of Representatives. Obviously, there's a need for more. Are women going to say, okay, I'm going to go into this, or are they going to say, I want no part of this circus?
Well, something has to change, because I think we have a real discrepancy here between the amount of feminist feeling that women have in this country. Polls show that a majority of women consider themselves to be feminists, use the F word, in fact. But we have so little political power. I mean, compared to other nations, we're probably the most feminist nation. And yet we have less representation in Congress and Senate than, say, Italy, any European country.
Whose fault is that?
Well, this is something women debate all the time. I mean, it's partly that women have less money on the whole, and it costs a lot to run for the Senate or for Congress.
Do you think more women will do it now?
I hope so, because the strange thing is that this whole confirmation process has turned out to be such a beautiful argument for affirmative action, at least in the U.S. Senate.
Very quickly, should these hearings have been private?
No, I don't think so. The only trouble with this is it turns into too much of a show. I think Thomas has been grandstanding. I think we've had a tremendous amount of dramatization on his part, and that probably would not have gone on in a more private setting.
Barbara Ehrenreich, thanks very much for being with us this morning.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
Those figures for the meeting, you don't like them?
Some things are so reliable, they seem invisible.
Confusing, right? They're fine.
For the last 9 years, Canon has been the #1 choice for copiers of uncompromising quality.